Today, we have Tom Harms with John Lapham and Aaron Latessa with BCM One to discuss how to streamline your network. Thank you, gentlemen.
Cool. Yeah. So
Thank
why
you.
don't we start with just quick introductions? So I'm the national channel account manager that works. I'll be working like opportunities with you guys and joining calls with clients and kind of helping close that business from a new logo perspective. We do have, just so you guys know, for ongoing clients, we have a CRT team not represented here today, but anything a year in or longer would basically get assigned to them. So you'll have a dedicated account manager. From that side, been with the company going on 12 years. I actually came from an acquisition where we had a relationship with you folks, Next Vortex. Aaron did as well. Aaron, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I've been with BCM One now for 7 years in a variety of different roles, from post-sales project management to support tier 1 all the way up to tier 3. I also did some time with voice engineering. Now I'm working as a solutions engineer alongside sales folks like Tom in an effort to right-size solutions. So I'll be working hand in hand with him on any deals you have to get down into the nitty-gritty details on customer-specific needs and what our platforms can do to address those.
Sure. John, you want to introduce yourself as well?
Yeah, sure, Tom. Thanks. I appreciate that. Good afternoon, everyone. John Lapham here. First-time caller, first-time listener. Been in the industry for about 30 years. Most recently with TCG we were acquired through Teleris, and I joined up here with BCM One about a month or two ago. Excited to be here. Excited to be working with you guys, and shout out to Ed Pierce. All right, Tom, back to you.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Yeah, so kind of concept here, guys. We're going to go do kind of really bird's eye view of a couple solutions that we think, based on talking to your team, that will be a good fit for you guys going forward. Basically help you guys identify opportunities for that. Again, we're going to keep it really high level, but then we're going to have a second session. So please provide feedback to the team on what you'd like to cover next as far as in-depth solutions go. But as far as like a company background, we've been in business 32 plus years. As I mentioned, one thing I like pointing out is prior to 2019, BCM One did not own or operate any voice platforms. That's where Aaron and I's company came from, the Next Vortex platform, which is a national SIP trunking solution. We're not going to cover that much today, but just keep in mind, we still do have that solution, still sell it every single day. But with those acquisitions, we still remain. And then another one that we did do last year, 18 months ago or so, is Pure IP. And that's our global voice solution that we will be talking about today. We've had a number of different acquisitions within the portfolio. And I like mentioning that because the 89% net promoter score still holds true even through those acquisitions, which is pretty uncommon in the industry. So a really high net promoter score. A big portion of that comes from working with strategic partners like you guys, where we're going to identify actual fits for us. And if it's outside of that, we'll say no or caution you kind of the pitfalls that might come from it if we do it. So we like to be upfront and honest, say no a lot if it's not a good fit. And I think that holds true to our net promoter score. But 600 plus employees globally is what I'll say. So from a portfolio perspective, we have a lot of different items. I'd say we do kind of two primary things, right? We do enterprise, both global and national voice or SIP trunking services, operator connect, direct routing globally within Microsoft, Cisco, WebEx, and Zoom, and then the major contact center space, as well as the SIP trunking nationally on the Next Vortex platform. And then the second piece is the network side of the house, which BCM One's done for 25 plus years. Managed connectivity, just think, internet aggregation, if you will. We layer on items like SD-WAN, POTS, et cetera. So the main two things that we're going to cover today is going to be the enterprise voice solution as well as the connectivity piece. So from a connectivity standpoint, I would say it's pretty simple. Clients come to us with a rat's nest of many different suppliers, a lot of different types of technologies. A lot of them are a really smaller staff when it comes to their IT staff. They don't have a lot of time and energy to manage it. It's usually a very complex environment, a lot of diversity required, carrier and technology diversity required. We basically put it into a single bill, single point of contact into our Vital View solution, which is our management portal that they can get access to. So think 10, 20, 50, 100, 200 sites, multiple internet connections with diversity on both technology and carrier diversity. And they'll basically come to us. We'll build a best of breed solution for them. And it'll basically all be loaded into VitalView for them to kind of see into that platform. I think one of the cool things that we do is we monitor those circuits. We'll notify them if something happens, how they want to be notified. And then we're going to also do the remediation with the carrier on their behalf. Aaron, anything you want to add here?
Yeah, I would add in there that in addition to the monitoring, notifying, restoring, there's also tie-ins to our ticketing system. So once these notifications go out, as soon as an event occurs, the VitalView will actually reach out to our ticketing system and send off a ticket to any of the preloaded contacts. So you have automated alerting in there. And then as Tom said, from the NOC perspective, it's monitored 24/7. So the power of that is that we'll start the remediation immediately and continue to work with that vendor to get services back up. And it's really powerful in situations where we have diversity on site or we have a router on site where we can do something as simple as verify power to get the ticket past tier 1 support into, okay, so something is down and you actually have to look at it. We have another circuit at this site or a router that we can still access and is powered. So it really is sort of like a full monitor, notify, restore solution overlaid with the Logic Monitor portal that they'll have access to view.
Yeah, and that's kind of what you guys are seeing now. So yeah, like Aaron was saying, one of the powerful things is just doing this for nearly 3 decades. We kind of understand that ISPs, especially big carriers, have these kind of stalling tactics, especially at the, in the middle of the night or the most, I'd say the hardest times for your customers to be on site, right? So one of the things that we do is we use basic logic, right? If we have some kind of SD-WAN equipment or a router or multiple internet circuits going into that, we know that if we can reach one of those, the internet circuit is obviously down. So we can use some human logic as well to kind of route around some of those stalling tactics. But I would say just from an identification of an opportunity perspective, really 10 plus sites geographically dispersed. The more sites, the better, the more diversity required, et cetera. And so it's really to make their team more efficient so they can focus on their business, right? So, if you have a 50 site opportunity with multiple circuits needing DIA, broadband, and or 4G, 5G LTE, we can do that as well. So I'd say that's really kind of in a nutshell where the opportunities would come with us. If it's like a single circuit or big point to point, I think you're going to find better providers out there for that specific solution. So cool. Jumping into the global voice piece, and again, this is mainly going to be around pure IP, which we acquired about 18 months ago. We have had some really good success. We really are going for a couple thousand users and above. We obviously can service less than that, but the power of the technology and capabilities is definitely in the multi-thousand user space. We're literally winning logos like Amazon.com since the acquisition. So it's an awesome solution. Basically, here this slide basically shares why we purchased Pure IP. They were not in the U.S. channel. Like obviously, you guys didn't have a relationship with them. None of the other TSDs did. It was a UK-based company. They built out this 12 global POPs throughout the world. It's a true 24/7, 365 with NOCs in US, UK, and New Zealand, as you can see there. So it's employees actually answering the phone and doing their job during their work hours. It's not somebody answering a call in the middle of the night in the US and having to wake up and whatnot. But we were only doing direct routing here in the US, and this gave us the ability to do operator connect globally in 50 plus countries with full PSTN replacement, as well as direct routing. And then it also makes us a CCP for WebEx, which is was a huge add-on, and we're in the Zoom marketplace. And in that infrastructure, there's 9 or 10 contact centers built into our platform as well. So we can provide that BYOC for those contact center solutions. Oftentimes we see both of them together, like, hey, I'm going to Teams and I have Five9 contact center as an example. But really gave us a global voice solution, especially for the UCC platforms, I would say. Anything you want to add there?
Yeah, I mean, I would just highlight the importance of those connections into these UCC platforms, specifically Cisco and Microsoft, and even Zoom to a degree as well. We'll get into some of the more technical details on them, but that's really where we see a lot of customers going as they move their phone systems off-prem. So you get somebody with those Ciscos, Mitels, those old legacy PBXs, they're moving to UCC platforms. Maybe they've got contact center off in a different spot. The Pure IP platform is really designed to tie all that together.
man. That's basically, this slide is the value proposition slide, guys. So from a security and compliance standpoint, we've worked with a number of global companies out there. So we have pretty much everything kind of pinned up from that perspective. Very secure. If you guys have a client, we have a full vendor team that can get them the documents required so that they can move forward as far as getting us set up, et cetera. UCC certifications, we kind of talked about that. Teams, Operator Connect, WebEx, and Zoom. Major contact centers built into our platform. The 50 countries, full PSTN. If we can't do full PSTN, imagine China or India. Aaron, do you want to cover what we do from that perspective as SBC as a service?
Yeah, in those countries, SBC as a service, especially in relation to like your Cisco environments or your Microsoft environments, we can provide the SBC and the physical SBC into those markets and then use them as a direct routing endpoint. In those situations, because we can't provide the PSTN and port the numbers, they get the local telco and plug it into the SBC, and then the direct routing can be managed from there, either into, like I said, a WebEx environment or into Teams. And even if they do have a legacy phone system there that needs to be powered, maybe you need the SBC to tie into these other platforms as you get that legacy system where those users migrated. It could also be used in a transition period or as a permanent solution for some of those, third-party on-prem systems that would need the connections to tie into us and then over to these other platforms that they're utilizing. So it's a good tool to kind of bring a full solution together, provided we're providing services in other regions as well.
Cool. Yeah, and then from a 911 standpoint, I'd pretty much say it depends on where the client's at in their journey, but we can provide dynamic, static, or what we call like nomadic, somewhere in between, right? So from that perspective, every single number would come with 911. If it's Cisco and they're already getting red sky, they can send us a note saying, hey, we don't need you guys to provide 911 as an example. SMS, we're really close to getting that. I'd say Q1, we should be able to provide SMS fully on our paper. Today, we would recommend a third party. We do a lot with the ActChat, have a really good relationship with them. Pure IPs have worked with them for a number of years, and we've obviously worked with them over the last 2. So, and then Hyper Network, I'm going to kind of share more about that. It's basically DID resiliency on the underlying carrier side, and we'll get into that here in a minute. But as you guys can imagine, we get a lot of different types. When you say you can do Teams, you get a lot of different types of opportunities, right? Sometimes it's licensing, sometimes it's 50 users, and they really need a UCaaS solution. So just to kind of help identify opportunities that are a good fit for Pure IP, we put together this bullseye. Keep in mind, some of it could, there could be some flexibility that makes it a really good fit outside of this, but this just kind of helps you guys from a starting standpoint. I would say 1,000 to 2,000 plus employees. They're coming from multiple platforms, maybe mergers and acquisitions that, had that happen, but they might have a Cisco, Avaya, maybe a Mitel, or they have some kind of WebEx users out there, but essentially they're coming from multiple platforms. They're trying to get to a single cloud destination. So WebEx, Teams, or Zoom, they may have some voice complexity. Maybe they have a contact center. They need to do some on-net dialing between the different platforms, or they need to do some trunk configuration moves. As an example, maybe they're on Cisco CUCM and they need to migrate those users over time to WebEx. There's an easy way for us to point that traffic to their WebEx org instead of that platform. So some kind of, I would say, voice infrastructure complexity. And then we kind of talked about the 50 countries full PSTN. So multinational is a big one for us. If it's if it's just in the US and they have 200 users, that opens up a lot of competitors that can do that, right? We have a very unique concurrent call model where I'll share kind of an example with you guys on the pricing. But that's where like more users, the better, because you can basically share those call paths across different global regions. So as an example, I like using here in the Americas, whether that's North or South America, say they have offices all over both North and South America, they can share that trunk group and channels across the Americas region. And that's the same in some of the other different global regions as well. So they don't have to have minimum trunks in each country, if you will. It's more about the global regions, and then they'd have the DIDs associated with those countries as well. So unique concurrent call model that I'll share with you guys. A lot of competitors kind of treat it as UCaaS, do a 1-to-1, or if they do a concurrent call model, they may have some limitations like 1-to-2, 1-to-4, 1-to-8, et cetera. So we'll kind of share a little bit more with that. I think this is kind of a redundant slide. That's maybe a good takeaway. Just kind of just speaks to, again, it's a full follow the sun model, right? Auckland, London, and San Francisco are where our operation centers are, our support folks, 12 global pops throughout the world, 50 countries full PSTN. There's 137 countries we can provide services in. Next slide is just some of that. This is a takeaway slide, right? You don't have to sit here and read all these. I'll send this to you guys so you have it, but it's a nice list. We also do have a coverage tool that I can provide to you guys that basically says if you have a customer in somebody say they have 10 countries, you can go in there and just type in the different countries and get a report in a few seconds. So it's pretty simple, and I'll send that to you guys as well. Aaron, do you want to cover Hyper Network with them?
Yeah, so Hyper Network is a patented technology that we actually acquired with the purchase of our platform, FlowRoute, a couple of years back, and we've extended the technology into the rest of our voice product offerings as well, including Pure IP. And what it is essentially underlying carrier redundancy. Traditionally, most SIP providers, it's no secret, they're going to house your DID on some large underlying provider. There are a lot of them here in the United States, like the bandwidth.coms or Peerless networks, et cetera. And traditionally, you're single threaded through that underlying carrier. So if somebody like Bandwidth has a huge DDoS attack, as they did a couple of years ago, that took out almost 2/3 of their DID traffic, a lot of the providers are left kind of bearing the brunt of that from the customers and trying to find out operationally what they can do to get those DIDs back on plane. What with Hyper Network, it's a simple switching of an LRN, so I can move the numbers between underlying providers without having to port, which is what the traditional option is. Porting obviously takes 10, 15 or more days to do, versus Hyper Network being able to flip between underlying carrier routes within a matter of hours, after learning of some sort of large event, some sort of large security incident with the carrier, a DDoS attack, or even some regional protracted fiber cuts could trigger responses as well. So it's an extra layer of insurance for the DIDs at the carrier level. We also obviously have disaster recovery options down at the trunk level to move between your platforms in the event that Teams is out, but this gives you the extra layer of security and insurance for numbers that need to be super high available numbers. I'm thinking hospitals really, really like this. Some retail environments really want to hear more about this. So again, just that extra layer of underlying carrier redundancy provided from us in the event that there's a large issue that needs to be addressed rather quickly.
Yeah, I would say hospitals, anything healthcare, hospitals, anything life or death or revenue producing. So if it's a CCAS opportunity, contact center where they're taking calls that equal revenue, or life or death like hospitals. We see it a lot in the university and local government space where they like this service. But yeah, any company that needs maximum uptime, this is available both on our national or Next Vortex BCM One platform, as well as Pure IP in the US. So we do see a lot of hospitals and et cetera because of this solution for sure. And then we have our kind of advanced auto detecting disaster recovery on both platforms. So it pairs well from a site level to the carrier level, and obviously our network that we talked about as well. Here's just kind of a quick example. Obviously miles may vary on this depending on the customer, but this was one that we were working on recently, 2,000 users. They only needed 150 concurrent calls. You can kind of see the math there. Just put 100K outbound on it, and you see about 2,500 a month. If you're doing it per user, 695 or so, and it's really like nearly 14,000. Obviously, these are kind of varied, but as you can see, as you go up in users, so you go 5, 10,000 users, the cost per user is significantly lower than a lot of competition. I would say too, like the inverse is true as well. If it's only like 50 or 100 users or 200 users, it's not as great of a fit, I would say. And then as you add that global capability into it, that's when it becomes a really good fit. And then just kind of wanted to leave you guys with some logos that we've worked with. One I like sharing is Nestle. We have a member on our technical team that actually came from Nestle. He was part of that deployment, full, kind of from start to finish. Was one of the resources that we worked with on the Nestle side. We ended up hiring. They asked us basically to hire him and have him kind of manage the account as well as do other things. So we have a pretty good referenceable employee even from the Pure IP side. But I would say basically the story here is that bullseye, right? Coming from multiple platforms, have a cloud destination that they want to get to, global in nature, want to take advantage of the concurrent call model, need some failover, complex voice, etc. So cool. And I think one other item in here that's worth sharing, and then I'll let you guys ask some questions, is just our relationship with Microsoft. So we're built into Maps from a quality of service perspective. We're going to build 2 geo-redundant trunks in every region the client has offices in or we're connecting into. That's good for redundancy purposes, but also from a burstability standpoint. So if a client is, like in that example, committing to 150 concurrent calls, they're going to have 2 geo-redundant trunks built into our data center. So it's effectively allowing them, up to 300 concurrent calls. We don't send a busy signal or charge extra for those calls additional to 150. But if they're constantly going over, say they're getting close to 200, we'll basically say, hey, you just need to increase your subscription. You've been consistently going over. But if it's here and there, not a problem at all. We want them to be able to take advantage of our technologies. And then kind of speaking to the Microsoft relationship in general, as we mentioned, we're one of the original Operator Connect partners. And we have a really close relationship with Microsoft. If it's a client above 1,000 users, we can register it to co-sell with Microsoft. And what that does is it basically, if it's approved, we basically get access to the account manager that works with them from a Microsoft standpoint. And it's been really helpful of kind of providing a unified front or a unified solution from an engineering standpoint, and obviously from a credibility standpoint. If their Microsoft rep is involved in the opportunity with us and you guys, it's going to give us a much higher percentage, and we can get creative on how we use that resource, et cetera. So now I've seen it a couple of times in our favor where it's down to 2 different, 2 providers, and we end up winning because we work with their Microsoft account manager to unify that solution. So there's some cool stuff that we can do there.
Hey, Tom,
yeah,
Tom, may I input real quick here? So team,
Sure.
this is John Lapham. Again, I'm gonna go back to what I said when I first joined on here. I've been in the industry for 30 years. My last 5 years was working directly with partners, and I had my own agency. What Tom and Aaron are covering here, this is huge. I compare this to the original 6 in hockey. For those that know me, know I'm a hockey guy. We were at the party more or less with Microsoft in the very beginning when they were putting together the formula to release Microsoft Teams. And we're one of the original 6 that they came to market with. So when you look at that, we're talking the likes of British Telecom, AT&T, Verizon, Lumen, and then BCM One, right? So that's huge. We're helping them put it together more or less. We weren't invited after the fact. We're there in the very beginning. So I just want to make sure that we emphasize that fact. That's one of the main reasons why I joined BCM One, because we all know you're seeing so much of this go on right now in the industry that nobody knows, like, where do I go with this? I need a professional. So don't run away from the Microsoft opportunity. So if you hear someone in there working with a client, they're from Microsoft, wonderful, get their name. We can work with them. Let them take care of the front end, get the license and do all that. We've got the back end, which is the connectivity side. And that's where the rubber meets the road here. So Tom, I'll hand it back to you, but I want to make sure that we emphasize that point.
Sure, yeah, and we do have a lot of experience, like John is saying. We have over 1 million users lit up and rolling out some pretty big projects over time. As you guys can imagine, you know how contracts work. So yeah, done a ton of these. So this is primarily what Pure IP did, was a lot of Microsoft Teams and a lot of Cisco and contact center. So 20 plus years experience from this team that is implementing and servicing these clients. Okay, any questions?
Yeah, we do have one question, and it is, where are winning deals, customer size, and products?
Yeah, so I'd say going back to that bullseye, really at 1,000, 2,000 plus employees globally on the Pure IP side. Obviously, if it's a US only company, we can work with them as well. But I'd say where we get really, really competitive is when they have a lot of different offices throughout the world and many thousand users, I would say. So 2,000 plus users globally, I would say on the pure IP side with Teams, WebEx, Zoom. And then I would say on the managed connectivity side, it's the 10 plus sites geographically dispersed, needing diversity.
All right, and the next question is, what is the floor of a customer that is a good fit?
The floor of a customer, I'd say it's the 10 sites probably for, I mean, we could be 5 or 10 sites for the connectivity side. The smallest we'll do on the pure IP side is 20 concurrent calls. That's I'd say the smallest where it's a really good fit though is probably 500 users, but we can do as low as 20 concurrent calls.